Well, happy Mother's Day to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and so excited. We have got an awesome panel for you today. We have Pastor Joe, Pastor Cree and Pastor Sonia. And you know what? We're just going to have a general chat about all things relationships, seasons, all the great things that we want to celebrate as mums as well as families. So welcome everyone. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Hope you've had a great day and you're looking forward to being spoiled.
Yes.
But I know with everything we can have some great mum wins, some mum fails. Can anyone want to share some of their, great wins or fails with us at all?
One of my children did remind me that I tend to forget their names. I'm becoming very forgetful in my old age.
Yes.
And I constantly run through the entire list of every person in the family before, bingo, I hit the right name.
Including the dog?
Including the dog. The dog's name. And it seems to be getting worse. Must mean something terrible.
Joe, has there been any fails? I mean, you're the perfect mum.
How many do you want? How long have you got? Well, I remember when we were pastoring, and we were pretty new pastors at the time, although we had a young family. And Gordon went to church in his car and I went to church in my car. And at the end of the service, we sort of thought that, we all had the kids on board.
Yeah.
And so he went home with some of the children and I went home with the others' children. And we got home, we were busy preparing lunch and sort of, talking to one another. And the next thing we get this knock on the door, and here it was the head steward bringing home our 5-year-old. We'd left him at church with big salt tears running down.
Now, being mums is a great honour and a great joy, but also it can be a little bit challenging at times. And also I think we have to remember, why we're doing it and what sort of mums we want to be.
Yes.
And things like that. Does anyone want to share into sort of that with, how they're doing life at the moment in this new season even?
Well, I think we're all running, aren't we, in this season with homeschooling little ones or big ones for some of us, and pastoring, and we're wearing many hats in this season. But I think it's really important, not only as women but as anyone out there, and everyone at this moment is full. Their life is full. I think it's really important to have grace for yourself.
Yeah,
I think that's really important. Hey, and to understand that we all have our own lane to run in. And we're not to compare ourselves to this lane or to that person. We are to set our eyes before us.
Yeah, especially in today's day where we have social media, everyone's looking at images and thinking, oh, well, they must have it all together.
Well,
the reality is that no one is perfect. And you know what, it's okay. Sometimes our expectations, we need to be very kind to ourselves, don't we?
Agreed. And on top of that, comparison is the stealer of all joy, right?
Yeah.
We want to be joyful.
Absolutely. And where do we find our confidence? Our confidence is in God. And what do we want our family to look like?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, Sonia, having a vision for our family is super important.
It's super important, yeah. And I discovered this early on in the piece. I think when my eldest daughter started venturing into the teenage years, and I did find like there were challenges and struggles and, some headbutting happening. And I think you've got to take a step back sometimes and just have a think about what is important and go back to that vision, like what kind of parent do I want to be?
Beautiful.
What kind of atmosphere do I want to set in this home? What kind of mum do I want to be? How do I want to relate to my kids? And have a vision, like how do you want your relationship to look like with them when they've left home?
Yeah.
Because honestly, they're only with us for such a short period of time, and we've got to make the most of that time, and not despise those those times, you know, and make the most of it, but also parent towards that vision. And that will influence every little decision, every little conversation that you have with them. It's so important.
And I think it's important to, even from a very early age, to establish them in the things of God, you know, to love God, love the house of God. And, you know, you do that by, you know, reading them stories and praying with them at night before they go to bed, and just keep those conversations going with them. But also, I think there's two aspects. I think there's the spiritual side, but then there's also the natural side where you want to, you know, help them develop themselves and have a vision to see them grow up and become a great human being in society. And so, you know, a lot of that is about helping them discover who they are, and about helping them just, you know, find their giftings and discover those giftings and abilities and skills that they have.
And like when you're talking about raising kids, and Mum was saying before about having them in the house of God, like I'm just so thankful that for over the years, you know, I've seen, you know, various youth leaders and kids, church teachers, like just instilling and imparting the same values and lessons and that heart for Jesus that we have at home. Like it takes a village to raise your kids. Don't try and do it alone.
And sometimes it's letting kids fail in that space,
right.
isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, failing is just as important as their successes, I think, because that's where we, you know, grow, and having seasons in their world. And I think that comes back to all of us, that we all travel through different seasons, don't we?
Yes.
And some are super and delightful and others are challenging and sort of hit you in the face, and where did that one come from? But I think it's, you know, God's grace is sufficient, isn't it? And it's not in our own strength.
That's right. We all have seasons, whether we're, you know, down in that valley or whether we are up on that mountain, right? We all walk a journey, every single one of us. You know what actually helps me whenever I am going through the thick of it is, of course, that, you know, we have a Father in heaven who is sovereign, and he knows what you're going through. And I think, you know, that always gives me comfort, but also to understand that, you know, you're not the only one going through things. Every single one, every single person out there has stuff that they're going through. And here's that word again, grace, going through your walk gracefully with grace for others, for yourself. Let kindness be on your tongue. I think that's really, really important, you know, especially when you're weathering the storms. You know, being on the mountaintop, super easy. We all love being on the mountaintop, don't we? And celebrating, you know, the good times. But, you know, during those lower seasons, you know,
And I think
doing it well.
we grow, don't we? You need the trials to grow.
Yes.
That's true.
Absolutely.
You know,
well, when we're talking about leadership in any sphere of life, whether it be raising a beautiful family or in the workplace, it's not always forged when the going is easy. Your leadership skills are tested in adversity.
Absolutely.
It's tough, and your faith is tested in those times as well. So
And we've got to dig deep.
so important to dig deep. And I was going to say prayer. You got to find your inner prayer warrior in all those seasons. And because I tell you what, no one is going to pray as fervently for your life and for your kids' lives as you.
That's right.
So rise up.
That's right.
Mums and dads everywhere, rise up in prayer and pray over your little ones. I
That's
remember as teenagers in the Moore household going through certain trials, and I remember Dad telling me that he used to go into our room and pray our rooms. Mum and Dad used to pray over us and pray that we would be pillars in the house of God. Pray that we would, you know, grow into all that He has called us to be. And it was just such a blessing to hear that.
So is there things, Jo, that you have done through different seasons that you've said, okay, I'm not going to compromise on this for whether it's family time or especially as kids have grown up and gone through teenage years and moved on and different seasons come, how have you managed those changes?
Well, I think you've got to have a routine. Routine is king. And I think by, I used to get up in the morning and go for a walk and pray. But I just made it, whether I was tired, no matter what was going on around me, that I would get up and pray and read the Word of God, because that was my food for the day. It was like eating, when we eat breakfast or whatever, we need spiritual food as well. Yeah. And so that sustains us, that strengthens us.
Yes.
And so I found that a really good key to,
because you can't lead or even lead yourself before your family if you're running dry yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes it's trying to find that place.
Yes.
Do you know what's for me at the moment? It's Jamie sitting there doing online learning while Mummy has her Bible set out before her.
Yes.
And that's my quiet
time. I know.
Well,
and
not so quiet.
Not so quiet
that's
time.
it. Or the shower or the bath.
Yes.
In this season that we have
And
with
you've got
kids.
to find that place too, for you,
Yeah.
how that works for you.
Yeah.
But what about, Jo, when the kids have grown up and they're moved and you've gone to sort of empty nesters and it's like, it's back to, Jo and Gordon, just yourselves. How do you keep, that alive, the love alive,
Well, I would say, there can be a sense of loss and emptiness when your children leave home, because you've been about family, you've been answering their every call and every
What
whim.
happened when I left home, Mum? What did Dad say?
I can't remember.
He said, I'm getting a dog.
That's true.
He went and got a dog to replace me.
And
Dog will never replace you.
And I remember, just feeling that emptiness, because we had 2 children get married within 6 weeks of each other, and you sort of think, I can't wait for them to get married and leave home. But then when they do, you feel this loss, this emptiness. And so, you've got to then respect the fact that this is life and you need to fill it. You need to fill the gaps. And so that's what... I did. I mean, even though we had the church, we were leading the church, we were building a church, there was still that sense of loss. And so I think that the important thing with that is that we need to make sure that we build our marriage and also ourselves
That's so good.
on the way through life, so that we have hobbies and different things that we like to do as individuals. Yeah.
Making memories with families.
That's right.
So even with grandkids and things like that, having family gatherings and
Exactly.
regularly
Meals.
connect points.
One other thing that Mum and Dad were always really brilliant at is showing up, and just showing up to sport events and special drama productions and all that kind of thing. Yeah, beautiful. Celebrating life together.
Beautiful.
Is there how are you prioritising? The physical.
That's my word for the year.
The physical, the mental. We've talked about the spiritual.
And
Actually,
We had a long talk about this.
because my word for this year was self-care. Little did I know that COVID-19 was going to hit, and we were going to have all the time in the world for self-care.
Yeah, but I think it is important that
Yes.
as you're saying, as everyone was saying, that we do invest in ourselves, because if we're not, doing that, but in physical, it's a big thing. We talk about balance, but I don't know whether balance is quite the right word, because I don't think I've ever quite balanced anything.
Ever achieved perfect balance in life? Do you?
No.
Yeah.
There's some weight on other things and not so heavy on another. That's balance to me, not exact.
Yeah, but I think it is important, because even the way that I pray, I like to get, like Jo, get outside. I feel close to God, but I'm exercising and I'm praying. So it's sort of like, well, okay, that's what fits me. And I think there's no perfect way. I think that's the most.
Everyone's different. You've got to do what the Lord's called you to do, but also what ignites your passion, what makes you happy, and you've got to pursue that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think a big part of self-care in the spiritual sense is keeping Jesus at the center. And you know, when Jesus was walking here on this earth, he had a bunch of people always hanging off him, right? Even Jesus had to withdraw as part of his self-care and go to his Father, leave everyone there and withdraw to seek God. And I think, you know, that's a really big part of our walking by faith, leaving what we need to leave and drawing strength from our Father.
Totally.
I think that's so important.
And on that, Cree, I was just reading in Luke this week that one time Jesus drew away from the crowd and spent the entire night praying. And I was like, oh, God, give me that kind of strength and resilience in prayer. He spent all night in prayer, and then the next morning, boom, strategy.
Yeah.
Answers and also guidance, and I think that's what comes in that quiet
Prayer,
place.
yes, it's so important. That's where we gain answers.
Yes.
Where we touch heaven, God downloads and gives us answers for what we need.
Yeah, because He cares about every detail of our lives, and
Absolutely.
He is with us, and He wants our kids to be blessed and our
Absolutely.
families to be great.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for chatting and sharing your heart today. It's been such a great pleasure to be around such wonderful mums. And to everyone, happy Mother's Day.